This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am back here in the very, very fine studios of Pod Populi, podcast for the people. I'm at the one in Boca Raton, Florida. It's very nice here this time of year. If you got some miles saved up, go to Boca Raton, Florida. Anyway, I remember about 8 years ago. I don't remember the circumstance. Maybe I got a resume or something, and the name on the resume was like Amber or Brittany or something like that. And I just assumed that person was good looking because of the name, which is insane. You know, no offense to any names out there. I just assumed. And there's no way that should correlate at all. That, like, and no offense to a Martha or something like that, but that there was a name on it, and you just assume certain names go with attractive people. I don't know why that is. There's also a thing that I was thinking about, that certain occupations are more attractive, and I don't think it has anything to do with money. And I'll get into the ones that I think from a male perspective, it's like, oh, wow, she must be hot because of that. And I've always been fascinated by the jobs that women are attracted to. So I'm bringing in a pro who has some insight on all that. She has been on this podcast before. She's doing a lot of good work for what we eat and how we eat it. She's known as the farm babe, far and wide. Michelle Miller, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
That's a thing, right? Women are like, oh, I want a fireman, I want a cowboy, I want a farmer, I want a baseball player. I know a girl who married a baseball player because she thought he was going to go pro. He doesn't go pro. He teaches high school baseball and coaches high school baseball. He teaches gym. She's just like, I don't know. I always want to marry a baseball player.
Yeah, and the chances of them making it are so slim.
Right. So that's why I don't think it's about the money.
Yeah, not necessarily, but there's definitely some sexiness to something like that. By the way, on the topic of names, Ambers are usually really pretty. But
why?
Guys named Luke are really hot.
Yeah, I would. That's a good point.
Luke's are hot.
I would think a Dylan is better looking than a Bob.
Yeah,
or Brian. You know, I think so. Like, I think that's so bizarre because you're just deeming, and most of the time the parents have chosen the child's name before they're even born. It's not like they looked at him and was like, oh, I got a hot daughter. She's Tiffany.
Every Amber and Luke listening right now is so stoked.
They are. I know. I think if you have a soap opera name, you're just better looking.
Absolutely.
In walks McKay. That's a good looking guy's name, right?
Yep. For sure.
If your name McKay, I think you're better looking than if you're just Joe.
Yeah, probably.
No offense to Joe. That's how screwed up we are. That's how we project on things. I wish I was named McKay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, McKay on the controls back there. Farmers. There was a show about farmers dating recently, right?
I can talk all about it.
All right, we'll get into that in a second. What was that show called?
Farmer Wants a Wife, right?
Farmer Wants a Wife. And then one of the bachelors, Chris Soules, was a farmer. Like, there's this thing. Do farmers make good money?
They can, but generally speaking, not too much. I think, you can look at it and say, oh, that farmer made $1 million last year, but they don't tell you that the input costs were like 1.1 million. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
and, I don't want to get into subsidies, but supposedly if you have land, you have a farm, you have property, you have animals, something about that is attractive. I don't know.
I mean, like, asset rich and cash poor is generally how you can put it, Like, if they sold out, they'd probably, make millions of dollars, but it's all tied up in the farm and their implements, their tractors and stuff. And there's a lot of myths around the subsidy thing too. Like, I think a lot of people think that they get all these crazy subsidies, but that's really not true.
Yeah, I think that if there's a bad rainy season or there's a drought, they just get a check anyway from the government. Is that not true?
Not necessarily. No, it's it kind of varies by region, but generally speaking, it's like like a cost share program for like their crop insurance. So like they have to carry these massive crop insurance policies if their crop is damaged, but that's really expensive. And then the government might say, well, like we'll pay for part of that. Or they might do like, if they're doing a conservation program, they might say, well, it's $25 an acre to do cover crops, but we're going to give you 15 of that just because it's good for the environment and the planet and stuff. So they're trying to like encourage more environmentalism.
See, great love listeners, you come here for the love stuff and we give you farm subsidy information.
You're welcome.
You never know what you're going to get here. You're a female. Is it something about women on one hand have, preferences on whether they date a white collar guy or blue collar guy or whatever, but almost overwhelmingly they are attracted physically, sexually, or whatever to the blue collar guy, to the guy who can get a little dirty, the guy who can work with a tool set, the guy who's not me, that guy who can fix shit. Is that something that goes back to he can take care of not just me, but whatever I need?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's so sexy. And I think, too, it depends upon how you're raised, maybe. Like, I don't know if this is true. What are your thoughts on women are attracted to men like their fathers? Do you think there's truth to that? Because that's something people say.
I don't know. My dad was an interesting dude. So he was an engineer background, worked at IBM, which is the traditional dark suit, white shirt, buttoned up as, Fortune 500 company or whatever. But he could also build and fix anything.
Dude, that's cool.
I got neither of those skills from him or whatever, but I always have been like, wow, I was always like, where did he learn that?
Yeah.
How did he learn that?
I wonder that
Why
too.
is there something that he knows how to do with tools? He didn't go to, and it's just the way his brain worked that I think he had to like doing it and doing it. I think that probably is an attractive attribute that somebody, there's something, I'm pretty good at figuring shit out, but I'm not pretty good at, waxing a boat.
I'm not calling you next week.
Right. But there's something to be said, like you see a man who has a very defined occupation and a very unique skill set and is something like, I am going to physically work hard. I think that's a good thing. If you have a job where you have to get up early, I think that's attractive in a human being because the laziness isn't going to kick in.
Yeah, I think so too. And, I think about like the way I was raised, right? If you think about women are attracted to men like their fathers, like my dad is pretty cool. Like my dad can do anything. Like he's a really hard worker. He's retired. He can't sit still. The guy's like 70 years old and he just rode his bike for 17 miles. You know what I mean? Like he's a beast, like in the best way possible. And I'm like, I need to find a guy that's cool, like my dad, that's like funny and works hard and is smart and like takes care of me. You know what I mean?
So is that what it's about? It's about the getting up and the working hard is ambition. Is ambition the word?
Ambition's sexy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah, like, two of my exes are farmers, right? And and I'm talking to another farmer now. Apparently I have a type. And they're all corn and soybean guys, by the way. Like, what the heck?
So you have a specific type within a type?
I mean, not that I'm trying to be.
So you're not
but
a
like,
cattle person?
well, no, I mean, they've raised cattle too.
Okay.
So, yeah, a little
They're
bit.
very talented farmers.
Corn, soybeans,
A guy
cattle,
who can get the
hay.
milk out of the cow has some attractiveness.
Beef cattle. A lot of dairy cows are milked by robots nowadays.
I'm sure they are.
They are. Yeah.
So a cattle guy is both a farmer and a cowboy?
So no, not necessarily. That's just so like a rancher would be like somebody that has thousands of acres where they're more pasture raised, like a cow calf, like but beef cattle farmers are more like feedlots where you're finishing them out for market weight. And then you also have cowboys, which are the guys that check on the cows. So if you have a ranch, the cowboy is the guy on the horse.
A farmer's not a rancher, but a rancher's kind of a farmer. They're both working land.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely some differences, but it's 6 of one, half dozen.
So if
the
you
other.
see a guy in a sports car or you see a guy on a $200,000 tractor, you're turned on by the tractor.
The sports car's fine too. I don't know. I guess
I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think it's about the money.
I don't think so.
I think it's about what we said, the ambition. It's about working hard. I think that is a attribute that is positive in anything because it means I can count on this person to be motivated by themselves. They are motivated to get up in the morning, get a job done, do that. I always like that. I always, there's a lot of guys who are very lazy and sort of fall ass backwards into a lot of money, especially in, I was in Hollywood a long, long time. There's a lot of people who are morons and they fail upward and they get money. And if I'm a woman, I almost said girl and everybody gets mad when I say girl. If I'm a girl, you're initially attracted to maybe the flash of it or the cash of it or the watch or the car or the house. But is there a core there? Is there a core work ethic that's going to be like when we are married and we have 3 kids and we're struggling here that you're going to figure out a way to get it done?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure a Hollywood agent's doing that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too about farming and agriculture is that they're very family-oriented people, which is also very sexy. You know what I mean? So it's like there's not a lot of good-looking single farmers out there because they all get married when they're 20 and they have like 100 kids. You know, so there's
they're not single, but they're good-looking but married.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of good-looking like married farmers out there for sure. Yeah, like I go on farm tours all the time, and I'm like, oh, that's so much. It's so easy to listen to him talk. Well, also so easy on the eyes, but just nice guys.
So when I drive through America and I see these farms, I'm like, where did these kids go to school? Where's, because you seem like you're very isolated. Where do you go to, you're not going to Trader Joe's. I don't know where you're going to the store. Like, where are you going? You're fairly isolated. So the family unit probably matters. The people that you interact with are the people you're working with on your farm and the family.
Yeah, where I was farming, I used to farm in Northeast Iowa, and there's so many small towns that the name of the high school was called MFL Marmac, which was Monona, Farmersburg, Luena, Marquette, and McGregor.
Everybody combined.
It's literally like 5 little farm towns. And yeah, shout out to anybody from.
And if you have a farm and it's been
funny.
in your family for generations, you're not just moving. You're not just packing it up and like, I think I'd like to live in Hartford.
Yeah, there's stability.
There is stability, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do. It's my job to raise the family. I could see how that can be attractive.
Yeah, it is.
The problem is the numbers. There's not a nightclub full of like 50 farmers, right?
No.
Or if you do see a bunch of farmers, they probably worked their ass off all day and they're drinking 9 beers at 5 o'clock.
There is some truth to that too. Well, but it's funny, my ex Doug that I was with for like 7 or 8 years, we were farmers together, and that's when I started my Farm Babe social media platform. And yeah, I mean, he met me in Florida, right? Like I was his bartender. He was on vacation. It's like, yeah, how do you meet women? Like you meet them when you're on
How
vacation.
do you? I mean, you're fairly isolated. It's like guys who work on a ship. We're in Florida right now. If you look out on the coast here, there's these big freighters. How many people are on those? And how long are they on those?
Yeah.
Are they just sitting out there for months? Is it 8 dudes? Is it 50? Is it 1?
Usually, yeah. And then they come back to the land and they just spend stupid money at the bars.
Now, do farmers have a lot of time off?
It depends what they farm and when. If you are not a livestock person, then yeah, you can get away like in the winter, But it depends. Climate matters. What they're doing matters. I remember. So my ex and I, Doug, he actually got rid of his livestock. This is the first year that he hasn't had livestock, which is so weird. He and I are still friends. And I was in Iowa on a business trip, like, I don't know, a month or so ago. And I popped in and it was so weird to see no animals. But he's like, yeah, but I have a little bit more time. I'm getting close to retirement. Like, I'm like, so you can do whatever you want now in the winter. But when we had livestock though, it was like, also we were raising lambs and calves, and there is nothing sexier than like this big, rugged, strong, calloused hand farm boy like handling
slaughtering a delicate calf.
No, not slaughtering, just like
hot.
nursing or helping them. Like when a newborn when a newborn lamb is like struggling and is sick, and he's like out there at 2 a.m. with like bottle feeding this lamb that's struggling. It's really sweet. Like we would bring lambs into the house, like by the fireplace to warm them up or like take care of them. And you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of sensitive things.
Is
you
a
have to be as
vineyard
livestock
person a farmer?
Yeah, viticulture. Yeah.
Somebody who owns a winery, are they a farmer?
Yeah. Like a grape grower. Yeah, they would call them growers.
Now, somebody brought this up to me on a podcast I guested on. They said that they like men in those occupations. I think they were a bourbon maker because they have to have incredible patience for payoff. A bourbon guy might have to wait years to see if the fruits of their labor turned into anything. Same with a winemaker, same with a farmer, that you are not getting immediate result of your labor, and patience is a very good quality to have in a relationship, I think.
Yeah, and it depends. Again, it depends what you're growing, when, where, where you're selling it to. I know I was just out at a vineyard in Washington, and they were selling some. They were making their owns. They were able to process it right away, but then they also sell direct. So they would sell off to the distributors, which would then go off to like a cupcake wine or something like that. So,
all right, I got to take a quick break so we can pay for wine and things around here. I am here with the farm babe, Michelle Miller. We were talking about what people do and why we like it. And I've got a little interesting point to make when we come back after the break, right after this. And we are back. So if somebody... farmers are also, there's science involved. They're very educated. There's a lot of education that goes on.
Yeah.
You learn a lot growing up in it, but there is a lot to go. You're a meteorology. There is all kinds of things in there, and you have to balance it with instinct, and you have to balance it. So, we're talking about farm because that's your specialty, but there's something attractive about somebody who has mastered a craft, no matter what that is.
Yeah.
The old film critic Roger Ebert once said that one of the most interesting things in a movie that's underrated is to watch somebody do a job that you're really not familiar with, like a safecracker, like a glass blower. Somebody who's like, I don't know how they do that. I've never seen them do it. And it's, they spend 6 minutes in a movie showing that. And we're all fascinated by stuff like that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If somebody went and spent a day at a farm, they would have no idea how this happens.
Yeah, it's so cool. I know. I love what I do. I get to share their stories and create the content around where our food comes from.
Now, one issue I have where our food comes from, and again, this is related to dating here. I go to a farmer's market or a street fair anywhere in the world, and it is cheap. Farmer's market in America is the most expensive place to buy food. Why is that?
There's usually a lot more costs involved in like the processing and the shipping and the packaging. And then there's also...
there is when you send it to the store, though. So why is a farmer's... farmer's market is because Americans are fooled into thinking fresh means more money?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that, too. But, it's like they also have to hold licenses and certifications, and then you have to pay your market fees, and there's a lot more money. And then with your sales and marketing, your social media, your time, but you're one business running all of that. Whereas if you're mass producing it and you're selling it to just a wholesaler, it's like a one stop and they're buying everything for like cheap. And that's how they're able to mass feed the world.
Well, the reason why I'm a fan of a farmer's market is not just because I'm fat and I like free samples. I think it's a good date thing.
It is such a great date thing.
It's such an underrated date thing. People love farmers markets because not only do you see things you're familiar with, it's like, oh, fried donuts. But you're like, what is that? Mm-hmm. And the people who work the farmers markets are really both passionate and knowledgeable about things. You can learn things at a farmer market. You can try things at a farmer's market. You can learn what kind of stimuli turns on your partner or date at a farmer's market. It's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, so just take me to a cheese stand and I'm set.
That's true. Nothing hotter than a girl at a cheese stand.
Absolutely.
I agree. Sampling and, be a little more generous with the toothpick, farmers market people. I feel like they've cut back on the samples in a lot of things.
Inflation.
Don't touch that. I'm like, can I try this? No.
No.
But it's a good date spot. All right, back to the farmer show that was on TV. Who were the women that were supposed to be on the show? Women who always dreamed of being a farmer, or it was farmer first, like farmer, find me a wife, and then these women had no knowledge of farm life?
Most of them had no knowledge of farm life. And actually, they interviewed me to be one of the daters on that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, the producers reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're casting this new show and we're looking to cast tall, good-looking single farm boys. Do you know of any? To which I responded, yes, I know all 5 of them. They're like, is it that bad? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm like, they're farmers. They get married when they're 20. They have 100 kids. And like, that's it. There's like no good looking, tall, single farmers. And they were like, well, if you refer one to us and they get cast, we'll pay you a referral fee. They're like, we see you have a really big following with farmers. And like, I'm like, yeah, so I posted on my social media and I did throw maybe about 20, 30 guys up the ladder to the producers.
Oh, well, there you go.
And then I pocketed one for myself who turned out to be a total douchebag, but that's another story. And so then all these guys, none of them made it, but I watched the show and personally, I didn't really find the guys attractive, like the farmers, like they weren't really my type, you know,
Right.
like I like more of like the tall, pretty boy kind of thing, you know. But anyway, they interviewed me to be one of the daters, and I
How
was
many
like,
farmers are pretty boys?
well, like, you know, the tall, broad shoulder Midwest, like, you know, like,
Okay.
I got, you know, a couple of my exes, they're pretty hot, you know,
All
kind
right.
of the,
Well,
the,
good.
the Channing
Well, I mean,
Tatum,
Chris
Tom
Soules, I
Brady
guess,
type.
was
Chris Soules is really hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. He lived like a half hour away from me.
Okay.
Yeah. I met him a few times actually, but, so anyway, what was I saying? So the daters, and I was like, I'm freaking perfect for the show. Like, but no, they didn't pick me because they picked the young.
There was a
pretty,
show on
dumb- not dumb.
a while ago on
Maybe.
on TBS, and I know because my friend Marissa was on the show called, was it Outback Jack?
I think I remember
Where
that. I've never
it was like
watched
The Bachelor, but for some rugged Aussie guy who like killed snakes with his bare hands. And I'm like, are the girls just signing up to be on a reality show, or is there some fetish that like I want that level of ruggedness? It's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
And that's why like the farmer thing, there is, I mean, what's the dating site? Is it a real thing?
Oh, like farmersonly.com.
Yeah, is that a real thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a funny story about that too.
So farmersonly.com, that's women who really don't know anything about farm life, and they're like, I have this fantasy, or it's people who understand the value and the attributes of the farmer, which we talked about earlier, or is it probably a bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both. And I think there's some women out there, myself included, who genuinely would love to meet and marry a farmer. Like I'm still on that mission for my future husband, right?
What is the life of a farm wife?
Oh man. Well, for me,
You gather the eggs?
me, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my when I dated the farmers, you know, we were very much a good team. You know, like I'm kind of a night owl, so I would check the calves and the lambs into, you know, midnight, 2 a.m, and then he would pick up the 5 a.m. shift, and so we were kind of just teams. We farmed together, and then I did farmers markets and sold beef and lamb direct.
Right. So I think if you're working with
Yeah,
the farmer
working together.
as together, I see that. But if you're just the farmer's wife and he's doing the farm, I think that's incredibly boring.
Well, most of the time they're moms, so like they're the farmers' wives because they're taking care of kids. Because there's a
Next
lot
generation
of
of farmers.
a lot of it's very family oriented. So yeah, like stay at home moms that take care and raise the kids around the family. Maybe they're homeschooling their kids. Homeschooling is pretty common in small towns
because the farms, the school's too far.
Yeah, yeah, or like they raise the kids on the farm, you know, so they're homeschooled because they're ranchers also, or they're, you know, harvesters or whatever. So yeah.
So the farm, that's what you want, the farm wife fantasy with the kids, or you just
No.
want to watch your man rise to the rooster and have at it at 5 a.m.
Sounds good. No, I mean, I just love agriculture. It's just my passion. So for me, I want to marry a farmer because I love the farm life, and that's what I do, and that's who I am. And like, I love animals, I love plants, I love everything about farming is just who I am, and it's such my passion.
You love animals, but the purpose of the animals is to meet. It's circle of life, I suppose.
Yeah,
Survival
I
of
mean,
the fittest or whatever.
People used to ask me that at farmers markets. They're like, how can you? Well, first of all, I think people think when you eat lamb, they think it's like this adorable little snuggly thing. But lambs are actually about a year old. They look like a grown sheep. And so we're not like, people think you're just slaughtering these little snuggly, it's not a Disney movie. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But like, they're big. But, you know, I love cats and dogs, just like I love cattle and sheep, and like they all die, right? So we love the animals, but eventually everything dies, and then some die and they just come with recipes.
Well, people,
That's the only difference.
I think that's people who are in that business, even people who are in horse world, horse racing, they learn very on, these are not pets.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, we're only 60, 70 years into dogs being allowed into the house. They were working animals for most of civilization. Only sort of after World War II did people like have dogs as like their real pet and sleep in the bed. These were outside animals. These are purpose working breeds. That's what they have. So you can like animals, and you can I like animals because they taste fantastic.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, absolutely. But you bet your ass I'm going to respect the shit out of them when I'm taking care of them.
What's your favorite animal? The cow.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and we owe them all the respect in the world and it's not just meat. You know, we get cosmetics, lotion, soaps. Like, hey, son, let's toss around the old pigskin. You know, like footballs. I mean, it's like it's all animal agriculture.
It is, and I think the animal would be happy happy that I enjoyed them so much.
Exactly.
They would.
All the way to the leather in your car.
So you could not date. Are there any? This is probably really oxymoron. Have you ever met a vegan farmer?
I don't think so.
Could you date a vegan farmer?
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm sure there are other people just do lifestyle stuff. Or are there people who do it that are like, I know how the sausage gets made, no pun. I'm not eating what I cook. I mean, there probably is something like that. Like, I know what the chicken tastes, I see it all.
Yeah.
I do see the slaughter of it. And so I'm out.
I've seen it all. But, a lot of the negativity around like slaughter videos and stuff is usually kind of like vegan propaganda type stuff, or like it's outdated, or it's from another country, or like they make it look way worse than it is. When you actually tour slaughterhouses, which I have, I've been to some of the largest, some of the smallest, you name it. I know the process forwards and backwards, and it is extremely humane. Like, if there's one thing I wish more people understood, it's like, and it's common sense. Like, from a business perspective, you want to take care of that animal. You want it to go through a very low stress environment because it makes the best meat. Like, you want to make a good product. Like a guy who builds a table isn't going to scratch up his table and make it, and then try to sell it. So you want that low stress, that good genetics, that like treated very well, managed very well, because ultimately you can get more money for your steak, right? So it's all common sense as a business to do the best we can, and it's a pretty humane process.
Okay, so what is other than the knowledge of it? So the knowledge of, a lot of people wanted to date what they know. A lot of people are like, I work in finance. I want to have to finance. Do you feel when you are dating these farmer dudes, I believe is the correct term, do you feel that you're either have to prove or getting challenged on your farm cred as a woman?
No, not as the farm babe. No, because everybody's like, oh my God, it's the farm babe.
So they know your shit.
Yeah, I've been doing this almost a decade now. So like,
does that matter to them though? Or they're just
know.
like if you sit down, if you're on a date with a farmer and you're the farm babe, are you talking about farm stuff? Or are you talking about Real Housewives stuff?
Mostly farm stuff. And it sounds kind of funny, but like, I think...
how hot is that to you?
I mean, I love it. I could talk farming all day. It's my passion. I feel like sometimes, though, guys get a little bit intimidated by that, though, right? Like, I was randomly out at this bar, and this guy was talking to me, and I said, oh, what do you do for a living, kind of stuff? And he told me that he was a farmer, and I was like, oh, like I'm in social media. I'm an advocate for farmers. He says, oh, okay. And then I told him my platform, and he had never heard of me before. Well, then that night he went home and Googled me. And then the next time I talked to him, he texted me, oh my God, you're a really big deal. Holy shit. And he was all like nervous. We went on our first date, and he was like asking me all these questions. He's like he was like starstruck a little bit,
Is it tough to balance though your credibility as an advocate for the industry with your very open about your farmer fetish?
I don't have a farmer fetish. I don't need to date a farmer. I'd prefer
to
it,
date a farmer.
but I don't need to. Shoot, my last boyfriend.
So it's sort of like, somebody who's a woman sports reporter, she's told not to date the athletes.
Well,
but a lot of them end up doing it because they got attracted to sports, because they got attracted to athletics.
Well, yeah, my ex, my most recent ex, was a professional golfer, and so that was fun but then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, that's agriculture, like golfing,
there's
turf grass
and turf. Yeah,
I'm speaking at the Turf Grass Association in January, so
Yeah, a greenskeeper is theoretically a farmer.
Yeah, absolutely, it's all agriculture, and so now I'm like, looking deeper into like, can I get more into the sports industry? Like, can I promote turf grass farming? That's neat.
Does a fisherman have the same appeal as a farmer? Is it sort of the same, right?
Yeah, maybe, but
work in the ocean
much
is
does
work
he
in the land?
Smell?
I don't know.
Does
the fisherman? How good is the farm?
I
guy
was just
smell?
gonna say, like, I love the smell of dairies and beef, but I don't really like the smell of fish.
So salmon, you're out.
If it smells like trout, back out.
Okay, so that's. Oh my God. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of women like farmer. I don't hear too many who are like, I want to date the commercial fisherman. I think that could be the smell. Unless
I feel
you're in
like
Alaska.
he'd be gone all the time, and I feel like it would, like, I don't know. I just get visions of seasick, and like, I don't know. It's
it's weird that
cool,
doesn't
but
seem
like,
to have the same appeal.
It's cool, but I don't know. I feel like I never see him. Like it's, with a farmer, I can be out there in the combine or tractor with him. We can farm together. But with a fisherman, it's like, am I just going to be out on this fishing boat all day?
So a farmer, if he tells the girl, like, you want to go for a ride in my tractor?
I'm in.
But women, that's hot, right?
I love that. I could do that all day. And you know what? Nowadays, these tractors and combines are so expensive. Nowadays, that you get a combine like $500,000. A cotton picker's $1 million. Ladies,
guys,
get yourself a cotton.
You don't
man.
need the Bentley. You need to go finding guys at the John Deere. Go to the hang out the John Deere dealer, and the ones who are dropping $500,000 on some piece of equipment, that's your boy.
There was a great meme out there of a bunch of like stripper-looking type chicks in these skimpy little dresses. They were all
Amber?
Named Amber. They were all hanging off this combine, and it was like they just found out this costs more than a BMW.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think there's a farmer named Dirk. He's probably a hunky piece of beefcake.
Right. But they're so expensive. But the good news is that with that expense comes really comfortable buddy seats.
Let's go for a
So
ride,
you can
little
ride
lady.
along. You got a nice little air seat. You got heating and air conditioning, nice and cooling. It can
All
be
right.
comfortable to ride in a combine.
We're gonna let
or
you. We're gonna
tractor.
let you plug your Farm Babe world in a second. But you have been on this podcast before. I believe that you did play Worst Date or First Date with us, but that was a couple years ago, and I'm sure you've had a lot of bad dates since then. No offense to anybody. If you've been dating, you've had some bad dates, or good dates. So give me either your worst date or your best first date that you have either ever had or had since your last appearance on the Great Love Debate.
I've got a good one.
All right.
So last time I did my best first. This time I'll do my most recent worst, which was literally the most recent date I went on. Was so I went on 2 dates with this guy who was originally from Morocco, and the dates were good. He was nice. We had a great time, but he was too into me too fast. Like it was like 2 dates, and he's like, "Oh baby," texting me every morning. "Good morning. I can't wait to see you." I said, "Hey, I'm leaving and go on like this month-long business trip." He's like, "I will wait for you, baby." Like I was like, "Okay, this is a little suspect." Like it's like, "You've known me for 4 hours. Like chill out."
You don't know your own appeal.
Oh my God. I mean, I'd want to marry me after 4 hours also, but just kidding. But anyway, so it just seemed like red flag all over it. So, there's these social media groups out there, right, full of single women that so I post about this guy on one of the groups, and I was like, "Hey, I went on a couple dates with this guy. Something seems off." These women came out of the woodwork. So come to find out, he gave me a fake name, a fake age. He told me that he had never been married. There was this one girl in the comment section who she DM'd me his marriage license. This other woman in the comment section was like, "He's my ex." And this other girl was like, "He's my ex." And they found out that he was cheating on both of them at the same time in the comments. And this other girl was like, "I just broke up with him on Friday." And I was like, "I'm talking
What site is this where
was
you're able to find these people?
Facebook dating. This was Facebook dating,
Jesus.
which normally I feel like is one of the more safe options.
Yeah.
But so I found all this out, and then I guess, and there was probably like a dozen women that were like run, right? And so, yeah, he gave me a fake
Moroccan?
name. And he gave me a fake name, and he gave me like a fake Moroccan name.
Oh.
And I mean, it was so bad. And so then I guess a couple of the girls went back and told him off, and then he blocked me. He must have figured out that I was the one that figured it out. And so, yeah, I mean, it was only 2 dates. I wasn't invested, right? Like all I did was kiss the guy, no big deal. It was nothing. I wasn't invested. But so I wasn't my feelings weren't hurt, but I was he blocked me on everything.
Okay. Well, this guy's bad guy.
Guy.
However, for every guy that you guys complain about that they don't text me the next day and they don't, and you're like, he told me he liked me too much, that was a bad thing? Or it's because you sensed some bullshit?
I sense bullshit. Yeah. No, I love that. I do love a nice guy, but he took it to such an extreme level. I like a guy that sends a good morning text every day. I like a guy that shows interest, that's really kind. But he was just like, "Oh, baby. I was just, something seems off about this guy. I had to trust my intuition, and I was right.
There you go. All right. Plug your Farm Babe world.
Thefarmbabe.com.
Your Farm Babe empire.
Thefarmbabe.com. And launching a new puncast with you, Brian Howie, my new puncast producer.
Yeah, I'm going to produce her podcast to spread the wisdom of the farm world.
Yes, heard it here. The Farm Babe Puncast drops November 7th.
I get it.
And then I'm also on Farm Babe. So I'm Farm Babe on Facebook and at the Farm Babe on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, at the Farm Babe. But thefarmbabe.com is the best place to go.
Good job. Proud of you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
As far as us, like, share, follow. Please review this podcast. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem and in the farm world, probably. Our 10th anniversary show, Great Love Debate live show is on sale. Go to greatlovedebate.com. It is February something, right before Valentine's Day, at greatlovedebate.com or at the Boca Black Box Center for the Arts, bocablackbox.com. It's right down the street from where I'm recording this, actually. Our 10th anniversary show. A lot of surprises, a lot of big guests. It's going to be super fun. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com, if you've got questions, thoughts, or interest in a fisherman. You like that trout smell, we'll hook you up. Because as always, at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.